One Piece chapter 996 is out, and I know this is a surprising chapter and a surprising release, but like I said, the One Piece chapter is coming out officially, and it'll be out tomorrow officially, so therefore we get an early chapter, on our end as well. So it's a lot to get to. This chapter, I think, progressed the story in ways that I did not expect. Again, we don't get into everything when we read early, and we'll get into the specific details tomorrow. Without further ado, let's talk about One Piece chapter 996, and we start with the cover page. The cover page request, we have Blackbeard and a hippo brushing their teeth. Seeing Blackbeard is always great because I like Blackbeard a lot, but nothing much going on here. Cool cover page request. At the side there, when we were reading the chapter, it says the worst generation versus the Yonko. I'm still holding out hope for other people to show up, like the entirety of the worst generation. We're not sure what's going on with Capone at this point after the Oh My Family cover story. But Aruj, please come. And I don't know how Bonnie would end up there because Bonnie was all the way married Joa. So I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about it. Tama, she showed up at the end of the last chapter, and a lot of people are like, where the hell did Otama come from? Why is Otama here? She's just a child. And it's almost like Oda's responding to those criticisms in this chapter where Otama's saying she's a samurai too, right? She's prepared to fight. And like I said in my analysis, that even if you're young, if you can help out, you do so, because just being young doesn't absolve you from all the dangers of being a part of this pirate world. So for Tama, she understands that she has some power. Even how she got to Onigashima, right? She said she stole an enemy ship and had him bring her here. People are like, oh, how did she do that? Well, Otama can control people, or those Smile Devil Fruit users in particular, with her dango. So more than likely, she fed him the dango and she forced them to do her bidding. She did that to Babanuki, right? For Otama doing this, she is continuing to be one of my favorite characters in Wano, and she's showing that she has intense or insane resolve, but it's also showing a lot of initiative on her part as well. So I really enjoyed that part where Oda is basically just dispelling all the, oh, she's a kid, she shouldn't be here. And even in this chapter, it shows just how important these kids are. Just because they're young, it doesn't really mean that they're not important or that they can't help. And this is just a perfect example of that. I've been singing Yamato's praises for a while, and I think Yamato right now, when you talk about her, it can be controversial because there's some people that believe that Yamato should absolutely join the crew, or rather, Yamato is absolutely joining. It's not a if and a but. She's joining. And there's some people that think they don't want her to join. They'd rather, Vivi come back or somebody else. They feel like Yamato should not join the crew. Rather, she should start her own fleet and become a part of the Grand Fleet, or start her own crew, or, whatever, and become a part of the Grand Fleet as opposed to becoming a Straw Hat. Early in Wano, right, after Yamato showed up, I felt like she fit the category of what a Straw Hat should be as far as requisite strength and just goals, etc. After a while, she didn't get as much focus. I started to fall back on it a little bit. She's back in full force in regards to the importance that Oda is placing on her character and how much Oda is adding to it. At first, when she introduced herself as Yamato, son of Kaido, daughter of Kaido, whatever, we were intrigued because the kid of a Yonko, you're not sure where it's gonna go, because it can go from Weevil to Katakuri, and that's a very wide gap in regards to character importance, character agency, and just even character design, and just how much we care about a character. For Yamato, she's obviously closer to the Katakuri side, even as far as legitimacy goes. I think even for Weevil, quickly, I don't even think he's a real kid of Whitebeard. So, that's a different story altogether, but that's how we looked at the kids of the Yonko. People are going to reference Shanks's possible kid with Makino, which is, I don't know. It could be, more than likely it is his. I can't see anybody else, but more than likely it is his. But we had high expectations. When we found out that she's, cosplaying as Odin, that she wants to be a man, and she identifies as a man, but she identifies as a man because of Odin, it kind of took some of the luster off, because it didn't feel like she was being herself. And she had the moment with Momonosuke where she talked about, where she reintroduced herself almost as Yamato. It felt good. It felt like, okay, I understand that you want to follow in Odin's footsteps, but you're still your own self, your own being. Whether or not, you identify as male or female, that's not important. What's important here is who you are. What do you want to accomplish? Yes, you can follow in Odin's footsteps, but you don't necessarily have to be Odin, right? And I feel like in the recent chapters, the more we've learned about Yamato, the more refreshing it's been for the character. And even in this chapter, we got some more from her, which, man, it deepens a lot of the speculation around her, because she possibly has a devil fruit, more than likely. But there's nuance there, as usual, per usual, when it comes to One Piece. Something that's been talked about really quickly, that I touched on it jokingly in my last discussion about the chapter, where I talked about Pedro blowing himself up, and how Pedro is responsible for Pedro dying. For Carrot and Wanda, blaming Perospero for Pedro dying is a bit unfair, because I think obviously Pedro has been trying to die for a while. After he went to Big Mom's territory, lost a lot of his lifespan, he didn't have much left. So for him, coming to Whole Cake Island, he was prepared to die. Now, who do you blame for Pedro dying? Ultimately, you would have to blame Pedro. But I do understand from Kara's perspective, she's very young, right? Very young kid, where she would blame someone like Perospero, because in her mind, in her eyes, Pedro had to do it because of Perospero. Even though Pedro had invaded their territory, even though they were trying to hurt his mom, even though, I mean, people say, well, you had a hostage in Sanji. Sanji voluntarily went. Listen, I'm not sure who you blame here, but there is always going to be nuance in One Piece. It's just inevitable, right? And here with Yamato, we see something. Sasuke's talking to Yamato, and he says, you know, Yamato, I can't let you run wild anymore. My impregnable core, they're about to be wiped out, and I need to stop you now. Yamato says, Sasuke, takes a deep breath, and then we see her teeth transform. And then the transformation is cut short because Frankie shows up. Now, my first speculation is that Yamato is a dragon. But this creates so much nuance, because now I'm like, is this hereditary? Or is this indeed a devil fruit? More than likely, it's a devil fruit. 90% chance for me, it's a devil fruit. I'm assuming she's a dragon, but her teeth transformed. So I'm not sure what she is, but I'm going to assume she's a Zoan of some kind, which is cool as hell, because we could have a, mythical or ancient Zoan user on the crew. I don't want to be a fanboy here of Yamato, but Yamato, based off what we saw even towards the end of the chapter, she managed to one-shot a number with a new attack. We haven't seen Kaido use something like that. The first instance I had was, okay, does Kaido have an attack like this? This is insane. It is actually crazy what is happening. But I just loved how the number came through, and he showed how strong he was by breaking through the floor. And Yamato is telling Frankie, you know what? Luffy put me in charge of these guys. I got it. And Frankie's like, I don't know who you are, but cool. And sometimes people say, well, that doesn't make any sense. You don't know if it's an enemy, this person. Okay, but I think for the Straw Hats, typically they have an inclination, they have a feeling about people, and they're normally correct, right? In this instance, obviously, he's correct about Yamato. But Yamato, before everything, she said, you know what? Before I go, let me take this guy out. And I was like, are you sure you can do it? She winds up, ringing arrow, completely knocks out this number, and then she has an amazing speech at the end, talking about Momonosuke and how he absolutely must survive this. And this just reminds me of when Pedro was talking to the mink, saying, you need to survive. We cannot have you die. You are too important to the Dawn. And for Yamato saying this, my thought or my mind goes back to the Journal of Odin. What did she find out in that journal? Or what does Yamato know? How does she know Momonosuke is important to the Dawn? Did Odin leave some information behind in regards to Momonosuke and how Momonosuke has to carry on his will? I mean, based on Odin's interactions with Momonosuke, it never felt like he was trying to pass anything down per se. But I mean, it makes sense because Momonosuke has this ability to control Zunisha. So Momonosuke is obviously very important. But Yamato, how do you know this? I am so intrigued from this chapter, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because we got my guy Law. I speculated this for a while, that Law, he does have a purpose, and that purpose is to absolutely find out about the D clan. Well, a lot of people felt like Law and his beliefs, they stopped after Dofi and Kaido, right? Or after Dofi in particular. I'm like, no, he specifically had a moment with Sengoku in which he talked about Corazon and the will of D and what it means. Law is going to be interested in what that actually means. So Law, he's been missing because he's looking for the poneglyph. He found it, but Law can't translate it, so he's gonna get a rubbing, and probably he's gonna ask Nico Robin after everything to translate it. Now, people are saying this is a possible death flag. Law could die here, his cursed existence. I think that's something that's important because Law views his existence as being cursed. It's only cursed in this world because of who's in power. Obviously, the D clan back in the day, they had a lot of power. I don't think they were viewed as cursed back then. So I'm interested to see how Law, or how his perspective changes on his life and his future going forward in Wano. It's a lot that we can get into with Law, but again, we will save that for tomorrow. Useless Captain Kid finally showed back up as well, and he's been missing for a while. For Kid, it makes sense based on what he's been doing. He's been collecting a lot of weapons and armor and things he can use for this battle, right? So seemingly he's been missing in action because how, entertaining is that, or interesting, seeing Kid going around picking up weapons? I mean, Oda did a good job or good thing by just having that off screen, but I still think Kid should have a lot more focus, but we have a lot of Wano left. So that's not even a critique or criticism because we have a lot of Wano left. We're not sure where it's gonna go. The story is progressing, but Kid and Killer seems like they're good again in regards to Killer and, you know, the possible effects of Smile. I don't know. Is he cured? I'm waiting for my Fafa. I'm waiting for that. But he seems to be okay. He's back to normal, being the voice of reason, telling Kid what to do. He's about to fight one of the strongest pirates in the world. We need all we can get, right? So I like that. Their dynamic is reminiscent of the popular, first mate, captain or right-hand captain dynamics that we have in the series. As expected, Kaido has wiped out all of these people. I mean, they didn't stand a chance in hell anyway. After he transformed back to his regular form that we know of, it was curtains. And when we see it, it's done. Like, nobody else is standing from what we can see. Big Mom is also heading towards the battlefield, and she saw Zoro, all these people. No, don't worry about me. Don't get scared. I have more important things to attend to. Now, for Big Mom, I'm not sure what the hell she's gonna do. Why is she so interested in getting to the top with Kaido? Now, I feel like Big Mom, she's the most unpredictable character so far in the series. Cause I have no idea what Big Mom is gonna do. But seeing her just blitz towards the top, she's so menacing. I love Big Mom so much. She is so menacing, and she's on her way to where Kaido is. Now, what she does, I don't know. Does she attack Kaido? I don't think so, but it's certainly possible. Now, also, towards the end of the chapter, we have the new monster trio, and they're headed towards the rooftop, right? And they're like, yo, isn't this close to the roof? Like, this is the 5th floor, whatever. They're just talking amongst each other. And something is going on. We heard someone say they're about to start again, and it's a heart bubble, and Sanji stops. We know Sanji's observation hockey's off the charts, right? So he's like, what is that? When I did the live reaction, there were so many people saying, okay, Ivankov, Black Maria, and I'm thinking it's Black Maria. Because I saw electricity goes through his veins, my first instinct was like, Enel? I don't know why I thought of Enel. Maybe because I want Enel to return so bad. I was just like, yo, what the hell? But it's more than likely Black Maria. I mean, it's more than likely her. We should be close to the banquet hall, and Sanji's gonna go off with, and frolic again. Hopefully he doesn't simp too much and it doesn't really impact what they're trying to do, but this was expected. Sanji's gonna, veer off, and then Jimmy's gonna veer off, and Luffy's gonna go up to the top with Zoro. Fingers crossed that it's not too terrible, right? I don't know who it is. I'm speculating that it is Black Maria. That makes the most sense. She hasn't really done anything this entire time, and Sanji being who he is, you hear, a woman singing like that, that's something that would catch his attention. So, fantastic chapter. Man, there's so much to talk about in regards to this chapter, so much speculation, but, we'll get to that for sure. No break next week, so that's really good as well. So, guys, we are eating chapter 996. Chapter 9, listen, y'all know what that means. I'm not even going to say anymore. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Give me your thoughts on the chapter. What do you think was the best moment of this chapter? Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at Bragody.ace. Thanks to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Guys, like, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. No break next week. Peace.